Now we're here and Murray Kinsella is in Eden Park in Auckland, and we're going to pick over the Lions' defeat to the Auckland Blues this morning. Murray, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
Murray, obviously first defeat of the tour for the Lions, Warren Gatland's side slipping to defeat this morning. I mean, what did you kind of make of the performance overall? Obviously it was much improved to the one on Saturday against the Provincial Barbarians, but obviously disappointing to come out on the wrong side of the result.
Yeah, a definite step forward in terms of how they actually played. You mentioned it's the first defeat, but the game in Whangarei actually felt like a defeat, a small win over a pretty poor side. So already the pressure is kind of starting to mount on the Lions, and the New Zealand press haven't been slow to kind of plough in and get stuck in. Even after the game here, you're already seeing a couple of controversial kind of columns coming out. But yeah, it moved forward in the pitch in terms of that scrum, that maul. There was a little bit more cohesion in attack, still some big errors, and it wasn't a great Lions performance by any means, but they're putting a positive slant on this. They're saying we've progressed, we're only 2 games into a tour, and the thing we're here to do is actually beat the All Blacks in a test series. So I don't think they're panicking just yet, but I think certainly on the outside, we're starting to worry about this Lions tour. We knew it was going to be the toughest tour of all time, really, and we're seeing against the worst Kiwi Super Rugby team, the Lions can't even win. So yeah, progress is good, but you want progress and wins, because momentum is obviously going to be key coming into that test series.
What we've seen from both games so far is kind of the inaccuracies, and that kind of stems naturally from the fact that, you know, these are new combinations and players are kind of getting used to playing with each other. You spoke just before we came on air about, you know, that was evident again this morning. I mean, is that one of the contributing factors to this kind of slow start to the tour?
Yeah, definitely. I think you're seeing the big errors in the games. Like, let's take that last-minute line out, which is obviously going to be a massive focus. You get it 5 meters out, you have a chance to go and win the game, and it would have been a huge moment for the tour because it would have lifted the entire squad. And the line out just completely malfunctions. Rory Best is going to take a lot of flack for that, for his throw. But it's a collective failing. You know, the call was wrong there. You could see there was a miscommunication in the middle of the line-out. The movement was wrong. The lifters and the jumper actually got mixed up. So there was a lot happening in that kind of short space of time. I think that's kind of symptomatic of where the Lions are. And even in defence, you're seeing it as well. When Rieko Ioane scored early in the game, there was just that little bit of confusion in the defensive line. Jack Noel comes forward. Other guys sit off. And there's a bit of tightness around that ruck as well. Now, having said that, it's obviously understandable that there's going to be a lack of cohesion early in a tour. But having said that, these guys are the best of the best. And bringing together that kind of force, the strength of 4 nations, should surely be able to beat the provincial variants quite well, and certainly beat the Blues, who, as we've said, are the weakest of the Kiwi teams. But you're already seeing the strength and depth of Kiwi rugby. Some exceptional players out there, guys like Sonny Bill Williams, who are going to feature for the All Blacks, but also guys who are just Super Rugby players, and that's the kind of extent of their capabilities. But it just shows exactly what kind of task the Lions are up against, and certainly they need that cohesion to happen pretty quickly, because the games come thick and fast. On Saturday, they're up against arguably one of the best teams, well, certainly one of the best teams in club rugby in the world. The Crusaders are undefeated. They've been absolutely outstanding in Super Rugby, and they lead the way. So, yeah, they need to find that cohesion very quickly.
Well, you know, you mentioned there Crusaders, that the tests are coming thick and fast, and they're getting harder as the games go on. In terms of the Crusaders, one of the aspects of today's game that cost the Lions was the lack of discipline. I think it was 13 penalties in total and 2 free kicks, and obviously Liam Williams was sent to the bin. I mean, that obviously was a huge factor in today, but there's no real excuse for that in terms of rustiness and you know, the lack of cohesion. That was just down to indiscipline.
Yeah, it's sloppiness, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly why that is. We can say maybe that their approach in training isn't being disciplined enough. You know, that's like famously Joe Schmidt's Britain Flat in Ireland camps. He's incredibly tough on his players in terms of their discipline. The Lions so far in this tour have been ill-disciplined, and that points to a little bit of a lack of focus. You're seeing something like Justin Tipperick getting done twice in about 2 or 3 minutes for not rolling away, the same penalty. You're seeing Maro Itoje get warned by the referee not to step across that line in the line out and encroach on the blue space, and he goes and does it again, gives away a crucial penalty. So silly things from players who should certainly know a lot better. So maybe there is that sense that the pressure is kind of piling on top of the Lions, and certainly that's only going to build this week. I think the Kiwi press will be loving this, and there's certainly going to be a bit of glee at seeing Gatland lose his 2nd game on tour. They're already hammering him over here, and it's just going to build and build. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's kind of inexcusable for players of this caliber to be that sloppy in terms of their discipline. They've just got to get better, because we saw the quality. We see a guy like Sonny Bill Williams offloading to Ohio West. He rounds 2 defenders and scores a try, and it happened just in the blink of an eye. And then if you add on 13 penalties on top of that, you're going to be in real trouble.
Just before we move on to, I suppose, the couple of positives to come from the game and the Irish performances. Defence. Ireland's obviously the Lions defence coach. He's also the Irish defence coach, and today we saw that the Lions were kind of exposed out wide, and that's something that Ireland have been kind of exposing before. I mean, there's obviously huge improvements need to be made in there in the week going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first place these Kiwi sides tend to look. They love playing to width, their passing and kick passing skills as well. I think we saw one from the really gifted Stephen Perifetta before that first Rico Ioane try down in the left corner here. It's a very skillful approach, and they can get the ball into that wide channel quite easily. What Farrell's system tends to do is place a really big demand on that guy on the outside edge, often the winger, because he's by nature out on that width, to make a really important decision to either come up really hard and get ball and all. If he doesn't do that, then his team's in big trouble. There's no real kind of backing away if they sense that there's no overlap here, I'm going to sit off. You got to go, and you got to go. And you saw Jack Noel, he was caught out a few times that way tonight, because you get a one-on-one tackle against a big winger. They have so many big wingers in New Zealand, big, powerful guys. So it places great demands on those guys out wide, and there's no real safety net there. It is a bit of a concern, and I think the All Blacks will certainly be eyeing that up as a big opportunity. On top of that, we actually saw the Blues early in the second half. They narrowed up a little bit, just around the fringes of the rucks, because I think the Lions actually adapted a little bit. They tried to get a bit more width and spacing, and we saw Sonny Bill Williams come off Augustine Poulou a few times, a short little pass off his shoulder. We saw Poulou himself snipe as well. So it shows that the Kiwi teams are also tactically aware enough that if you adapt your defence, they'll hit you somewhere else. It really comes from all angles, and it's going to be tough in that test series.
As you touched on before, Warren Gatland, you've just come out of his press conference, and he was keen to stress the positives, and there was a couple, particularly I suppose the set piece, the scrum was particularly strong, and central to that was Jack McGrath and CJ Stander, who both had extremely solid games.
Yeah, I think Jack McGrath is probably the one to do best out of the Irish involvement. Really strong scrummaging performance up against Charlie Famuina, who's obviously an All Blacks prop. And he did really well, along with Dan Cole over on the other side. Also, Kyle Sinclair and Joe Marder off the bench did really well. And I think that's going to be a massive area for the Lions. There always was going to be that set piece. We've big Six Nations forwards, guys who are doing this every weekend for their club as well. So I think they're going to see from tonight's game that is the big area for them. The maul was really strong when it got going. CJ Sanders' try, of course, came from there. And it was a really excellent maul, really patient. They kind of just waited, and Sander picked his moment and burst through. So those two areas in particular are hugely encouraging for the Lions. I don't know if that's enough alone to win a test series, but when you add that to Lee Halfpenny's really strong place kicking, I thought he was pretty solid as well on his first outing after Stuart Hogg had a bit of a nightmare against the Barbarians. I think those three elements were always going to play a massive role, and I think even more so now that we're seeing just how difficult it is to get a cohesive attacking effort. Having said that, the Lions they're trying. They're talking a lot about this attacking width and kind of freer kind of chaos is the word they're using a lot. A game featuring that chaos, so turnover and kick return. But in attacking phase play, I thought we saw progress there. They have that 1-3-3-1 shape where you have two pods of forwards in between the two 15-metre lines, and you have two of your loose forwards hanging out wide. And so they're getting a bit of width there. The passing is probably a little bit off. The decision-making is a little bit off. But, yeah, there's signs of maybe progress there. The only thing is you're playing a test match against the All Blacks pretty soon, and it's going to be difficult to really push that to the level that it needs to be at.
You mentioned Jack McGrath was probably the outstanding Irish contributor in that game. I mean, what did you kind of make of the performance of the others? I mean, Jared Payne was unfortunate. He had to go off, and Gatland confirmed in his press conference that it was a relapse of that calf injury. So that's really unfortunate for him because it was such a big night for him.
Yeah, really disappointing. Returning to Eden Park, where he played with the Blues in 2011, he nearly got in for a try in the first half, choked off correctly by the TMO. Didn't really get too involved in the game other than that. It was a quiet night for him. The game just didn't flow his way, so I think probably a missed opportunity for him. And the fact that calf cramped up again, it's an issue. He hasn't played a lot of rugby this season, really, certainly since Christmas and since November, rather, when he had that really serious kidney injury. So didn't really go his way. And in a tour like this, you don't get too many opportunities and he already missed the Barbarians match. So for him, a tough night. Standard, I thought he had a poor start. Sonny Bill Williams stripped him early on, but he grew into the game. He topped the tackle charts, topped the ball carrying charts as well, as he always tends to do, and he gives a huge work rate. I don't know if he's quite at Billy Vunipola's level in terms of the variety of his game, but certainly a strong start. I still think Talupe Faletau is going to be the test number 8. But CJ Sander will push him hard. Guys like Peter O'Mahony, Ian Henderson, Rory Best didn't get a whole lot of time off the bench, although the Henderson and Best were involved in that late line-out loss. Whereas Johnny Sexton did. He got a long stint off the bench when he didn't really expect to, having started the first match. I thought he had some good touches coming off the bench. He looked a little bit sharper, but obviously a missed tackle for that winning try, and I think he had another missed tackle as well. So it didn't really go his way again. And as we're saying, you don't get a lot of chances. Owen Farrell's going to start against the Crusaders on Saturday. He's likely to play against the Maori on Saturday at 10, and it's looking almost certain now that he's going to be the test 10 as well. So it's been a disappointing tour for Johnny Sexton so far. He looks to be, I think, short of confidence, and maybe just lacking in the kind of fluidity an out half gets from playing a lot of games back to back. So yeah, tough night for him again, I think.
Sure. You're off to Christchurch now, as you said, for Saturday's game against Crusaders. I mean, what does Gatland and the squad need to do between now and then to make those vast improvements that are obviously needed? Because as you touched on before, that the Blues to Crusaders is a huge step up.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of time. They travel tomorrow. We're all on the road. First thing tomorrow, fly down to Christchurch. You get a quick training session on Friday, excuse me, and you're playing on Saturday. So there's not a lot of time to do a lot of work beyond your video analysis. I think what he does have is a really strong core of a team coming in. The guys who haven't started a game yet. We mentioned Farrell. You've got John Davies. You got Conor Murray. There's your halfback pairing for the tests, most likely. Peter O'Mahony, Sean O'Brien, Mako Vunipola, Tyke Furlong, George Cruz. You've got Liam Williams as well, who had a brainless moment tonight when he followed a tackle in the air up with another one to get sin binned. And also you got George North. So there's 11 players, 11 probable test starters coming in to your Saturday team, and he's just got to hope that those big names and big players bring a big performance, because you're getting to the stage where you need momentum. And they can talk all they want about losing games but getting a better collective performance. But I just think, especially when you're playing the All Blacks, you need that confidence. And if you're getting beaten by the Super Rugby teams, it's going to be really hard to build that. So even beyond the performance, I actually think a win is just going to be massive this weekend against the Crusaders. They have those strong players coming in, a core group, and I think Farrell's a really, really big leader in this group. You saw it against the Barbarians when he came off the bench. He's just so full of energy, really good body language, and I think he's going to drive a better performance. But the Crusaders are a very good team. They're a very, very good team. They have a lot of talent, as we saw the Blues have tonight. And I think it's a really, really big ask.
Just before we let you go, Murray, you speak about Gatland and the positive spin he's trying to put on things, and he's naturally, any head coach is going to try to do that. But do you think he is now feeling the pressure? You've touched on the New Zealand media, and they're going to take every opportunity to put the pressure on the lines. But do you think now the head coach is starting to feel it?
Yeah, he can be a tough one to figure out. Look, he's very experienced. He's been through all this kind of thing before. He understands media pressure well. I thought he bit down on the Warren Ball thing a little bit too easily during the week. It was brought up in a press conference, and he looked quite agitated about it. Two pretty strong answers, and then just as he was leaving the room, he there was a muttering under his breath and a bit of cursing, and it seemed like it had got to him, And of course, the Kiwis absolutely jumped on this, They ran it on their back pages. They've been kind of mocking him up again, and every time you get the New Zealand Herald in the morning, there's Gatland on the front page, them talking about how much pressure he's under, and I know he hates that newspaper. So yeah, there's a bit of pressure there. I think every head coach in the world feels that, and particularly when you're in a situation like this where everyone's writing them off, where it looks like it's going to be tougher than ever to pick up a few wins, it would be weird for him not to feel that pressure. I think he's experienced enough to manage it. I think he's experienced enough to keep the squad positive. Certainly for at least another week. But if they lose to Crusaders, he's got a really tough task on his hands. The kind of doubt is really going to be in the players' minds at that stage. So it's definitely the biggest test of his career. I think we knew that coming in, and it's been hammered home by not only the Blues but also the Barbarians. and there's far tougher to come. So yeah, could be a miserable few weeks for Gatland in New Zealand.
Just finally, can you see the Lions going out in Christchurch on Saturday and beating the Crusaders and injecting their tour with that much needed momentum that you speak of?
Yeah, right now I think they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose on Saturday. You just have to hope that they display a bit more of that cohesion we've spoken about, that those big players come through unscathed in terms of injuries as well, which they've been pretty lucky with so far. Jan Bigger failed the HIA today, but that's pretty much it at the moment. I don't think they're going to beat the Crusaders. I just see too much form there. Interesting, Gatland said he believes that these Super Rugby teams are going to be as difficult as the All Blacks because they've been together so long. They're such they understand each other so well, and they're getting such a kind of united performance together. So again, that's probably a bit of positive spin, but they're really difficult asks. And for me, I think the Crusaders right now are a better rugby team than the Lions are.
Big couple of days certainly ahead for the Lions. Murray, we'll let you go before you get kicked out of the press box at Eden Park. Thanks a million for joining us.
Cheers, Ryan.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you on Saturday again.